everyone, and welcome to Once Upon a Storybook. My name is Cynthia with Cynthia's Joyful Creations, and I am so happy to be here with you. We are looking at stories from the book In the Arms of Angels. These are true stories of heavenly guardians written by Joan Wester Anderson. And today's story is entitled Helping Hands. We are all visitors to this time, this place. We are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then we return home. Aborigine proverb. As a small boy in Houston, Texas, Rick Bluestein knew angels existed. His mother told him stories of her own experiences and reminded him that everyone has a guardian angel. "Never forget to call upon yours whenever you need some help," she would say. I guess I wasn't consciously aware of my angel until I became a Catholic in 1996, Rick says today. But throughout my life, I've had a variety of beneficial experiences that I now attribute to her. Rick senses his angel as a female most of the time. She's a pretty good guardian, and she does ordinary things for me all the time, like waking me up for important events if I might oversleep. Her voice is audible and clear, and always loving. But this sweet spirit also protects Rick, and he feels her presence quite strongly in dangerous situations. There was a night when he had to make a stop at an automatic teller machine on his way home from work. Usually I avoid them at 2 o'clock in the morning, but this time I couldn't. The street was completely deserted, but as Rick waited for his cash, he heard footsteps approaching. He looked up and became tense. 2 men and 1 woman surrounded him, so there'd be no way for him to escape. He saw their menacing expressions as he heard the click of the cash being pushed out of the slot. His heart pounded. Having been trained in martial arts, Rick wasn't exactly afraid, but he was outnumbered, and the would-be robbers might have guns. He got ready to defend himself. Suddenly, all 3 looked up in unison, their eyes fastened on something behind Rick's shoulder. They appeared shocked, then terrified. Together they turned and fled, racing to an old Cadillac with no license plates, and screeched away down the street. Rick was astonished. Had the police stole silently behind him? He turned, ready to thank his rescuers, but the street was as empty as before, at least to his eyes. Today, Rick and his wife Ellie both work at the post office in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Rick has a side job as an aerial photographer. He believes that his angel got involved when he was taking flying lessons. "I was in the final stages of fulfilling a dream of getting my pilot's license, and one day I was up in a Cessna 150, a 2-seat dual-control trainer plane, with my instructor, Al Cowling. The men were practicing touch-and-go landings at Houston's Andrea Airport. I do apologize if I mispronounced that. It has closed, but at the time it was surrounded by cattle ranches as far as the eye could see. Touch-and-go landings involved touching down on the runway and then taking off again without coming to a stop, which helps a fledgling pilot perfect his technique. The 2 men were in the airport travel pattern in which all pilots are required to call in by radio the 4 legs of the rectangular pattern used when landing: crosswind, downwind, base, and final. These 4 signals would alert other aircraft to Rick's position in the traffic pattern. "We turned on final to land on runway 36, Rick says, and I called final on the radio as I was supposed to do. Immediately, I heard another pilot also call final. This meant that another aircraft had failed to use the required rectangle traffic pattern and was flying straight in." Rick froze. A mid-air collision was a definite possibility, unless he could break off from his pattern when he saw the other plane. But where was it? There are only two blind spots in my Cessna, Rick says, directly above and directly below. But the plane didn't appear. Rick and Al strained to see, looking every possible way. Nothing there. Suddenly Al shouted, "Pull up! Pull up now!" Rick had no time to think. He immediately pulled up on the stick as he had been told to do. Then incredibly he saw that Al was pushing in. On his side of the dual controls, what was he doing? Confused, Rick released control of the stick to his instructor. But again, right in his ear, he heard the shout, "Pull up! Pull up!" It was almost impossible to pull up against Al, but Rick struggled. Then I felt a sudden pressure on my hands, something pulling with me. Slowly, inch by inch, the aircraft rose. What the men saw left them breathless. Directly below them, the other plane, a Beechcraft Bonanza, zoomed across their flight path exactly where they would have been had they not pulled up. A few minutes later, Rick and Al landed safely, shaken but unhurt. After they had settled down a bit, Rick asked Al, "Why did you fight me on those controls?" Al looked blank. "What do you mean? You yelled at me to pull up, but you were pushing down at the same time." "What are you talking about? I never said anything to you." "But I figured the Beechcraft must be above us, so I tried to go down," Al said. "But I was wrong. Thank God you overpowered me." Rick has never had another incident in the air. He upgraded his aircraft qualifications recently and not only does aerial photography, but also gives aerial sightseeing tours around New Mexico's most scenic spots. Now and then he thinks of those strong but unseen hands that guided him to safety on that very important day. Thank God, his instructor had said. Rick always has, and he always will. What a beautiful story, Helping Hands. Well, thank you for joining me for this Once Upon a Storybook. I look forward to meeting with you again next week for another wonderful, uplifting story. And until then, be joyful, my friends. Stay crafty in your own way with whatever your craft is, and make your own joyful creations, even if it's simply just creating a smile that passes from one to another. It is not only one thing to receive joy, but it's another thing to also be joy. So in all things, always, always find your joy and share it. Take care, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.